Welcome. Nice to have you with us. We'll see if we got our microphone straightened out and talked about what's going on as far as the world of sports is concerned on this busy afternoon. Hi, everybody. Yours truly, Christopher Russo, beginning a broadcast day here on the great Sirius XM 82. We're here for the next 4. We'll do plenty of things for you as far as the National Football League is concerned with Super Bowl 52 down the road here. 888 Mad Dog 6. Get your calls in. We'll do a couple of little things here in the course of our day. The Bill and Bill documentary tonight. We'll do some stuff on that. We're going to start the day with a special spot with Rocky Bleier, 4-time champ, a Vietnam War vet, and he says hello. Rocky,
hey,
nice to have you with us, pal.
Same here.
How you doing, okay?
Oh, great. I'm fine.
doing well. You know, it was a tremendous... Let's start here. I'm younger than you. I was born in 59, so I'm not eligible for the draft. Though my friends, older friends were. I took a Vietnam War course at Rollins, 1980. And from that point on, I was very well involved. I knew I was into the Vietnam War thing. Watched the Burns thing, every episode. I did a lot on that. That was a fascinating documentary. You lived it. Did you see it?
Yes,
and if you did you think it was all realistic and was it done well?
I thought they did a wonderful job. And the biggest thing about that whole series was an educational process for the average American person.
No question about it.
About what took place, how it took place, why did it take place, what was the actual feelings, about those who served. And I think that they got that cross-section across to the American people. And so it was like a history lesson or series.
The young kid learned something, no question.
Very much so today. And not only that, but also the Vietnam veteran, the guy who was actually there, my guys who watched, who didn't know. I mean, they didn't know everything that was going on during that period of time. All they were doing was fighting a war that they either got drafted or they enlisted or they had a patriotic feeling for, but they didn't know all the politics of why we were there or what was taking place, or even behind the scenes. All we were out in the boonies trying to do what was told of us to do and get out of there and survive and get back home. And that was, our feeling. So I thought they brought...
So you learned something.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah, I learned a lot. You'd hear stories here about, why we were there, but life goes on and you don't really, unless you go and take a class on it. But the majority of those who were Vietnam veterans didn't take a class. They repressed all those feelings. They just wanted to come back and start living their lives again.
Do you think, I've had some calls on it, that maybe it was a little too North Vietnamese oriented? Did you feel that way?
There was, part of that was, was that, but we had to know what was taking place up there because that was a big part of the story as well. I also thought that there was a storyline that they kind of missed, and that was the average guy. And I'm looking at myself, and I'm just reflecting back to the thing is, okay, I just served. I served like everybody else. I mean, I didn't come back. I wasn't against the war. I wasn't a protester. And
one of the Marines was. I had him on, John Musgrave. He came back and became a protester.
And that was a voice, But I think the average guy came back and didn't know what to make with it. He just served and had to come back and went to school.
You had the advantage of football,
and I had football.
You could get your mind right back into it again with the NFL.
But the thing about playing football, or at least for me, coming back, was the average person didn't get a chance to have that same experience, and that was I had to talk about it. They asked me questions. Well, what was it like? What was the feeling? Because I was coming back to a high-profile industry.
You had to do it.
I had to do it. So how do you compare the two?
Did you have a lot of problems doing that?
No, I didn't.
You knew you had to do it, so
it became a catharsis for me, because now I had to think of an answer of a question that I hadn't really pondered, but it was a good healing process. The majority of the Vietnam veterans didn't have that opportunity.
Did you go to the war in '68 all gung ho?
Oh no. No.
So you knew you were walking into a bad situation.
Well, yeah. I went
4 or 5 years earlier. People went all gung ho. By '68, you knew this was a bad situation.
By '68, it was the height of the war. We had 500,000
Tet Offensive
that took place and so on. And so by the time I got there, basically it was okay. All right, I'm here. I want to get out of here. So I want to survive.
You had to serve 13 months, right?
I got to, yeah. to serve 13 months and go through my rotation, whatever that might be, and hopefully you do. So you live it day by day by day by day, and you just go through that process. You don't think about the future or what could happen.
So you went right out of high school? Or right
No, I was playing with the Steelers.
Oh, you were playing with the Steelers when you went?
Yeah, when I went. So I got drafted by Pittsburgh in 1968. So I graduated from Notre Dame, got drafted in that draft that spring, and I was a 16th round draft choice. Went to Pittsburgh, made the team. I played 10 games and got my draft notification.
Wow! So you were already in the NFL.
Right.
You could not get out of it. Were you supporting anybody? Couldn't get out of it?
Well, it was a couple things during that period. So 68, it was the height of the war. Reserves, National Guard were all filled. So Steelers weren't winning. I was a 16th round draft choice. They said, "Don't worry, we've got a problem. We got our problems." General retired. The congressman got defeated. We're running out of people who can pull strings to get you in, and so on. So,
wow.
So through the process, I fell through the crack. I got drafted and went to Vietnam.
Boy, oh boy, and that was before Noel.
Right, yes.
Because Noel got there in 69.
That's right.
And then you played then for ARA, but you got to, did you play in that 66 game against Michigan State?
Yes, yeah.
I had Alan Page on here this week, and he talked about that game. Did you play an active part in that game?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Running back?
It is running back. So
Nick Eddy got hurt.
Nick Eddy got hurt. Nick Eddy played left halfback. I played the right halfback. So Larry Conger was our fullback. We had three backs in the backfield. So he got hurt. I moved to left halfback, and then we had
Coley O'Brien played quarterback,
and then Coley O'Brien because Henry got hurt. That's right, he got hurt in that game.
All right, so you go to Notre Dame, you graduate. So you were a sophomore in that game.
A junior.
You were a junior, and then you play another year, then drafted by Pittsburgh, and then off to Vietnam.
Right,
you go.
yeah.
Now you got shot in Vietnam, right? Sniper fire.
Two things, right? Yeah, I got so. Here the action was that our sister company I'd just give you a little background. Sister company had been hit. We were flown out into to get them out of a hot spot. They were in a big firefight. We got there late at night. We pulled front and rear security to get them out of that hot spot. And on the way we had to carry in some of our dead soldiers. No, not wounded. Just some of the those who had got killed. And so we were pulling them out as well. And we ran into an ambush. So there was a quick firefight. The word was to leave the bodies, and we're going to come back and get them. So get everybody else, get out of there. So now 2 days later, that was our mission, to come back and retrieve those bodies. And so in doing, we knew that the enemy were around. We took a break about 8 o'clock in the morning, moving on an open race paddy. Our point man was about 40 yards in front of me. I was about 8th in line, carrying a grenade launcher. I took a step out on the race paddy, open race paddies. He saw movement across the berm, and he made a fatal mistake. In his excitement, all of a sudden he hollered, "Gook, gook." Shots broke the stillness, and they started to run, and he started to chase him, pulling everybody out into that open race paddy when a machine gun started to level the area. Guys were diving left and right.
They were smart. See, the
that's right.
Vietnamese were very, very smart.
Yeah.
Did anybody? Now you're a big player at Notre Dame. Now I'm too young to know how much publicity this got. Well, was this a huge story in all the papers that Rocky Bleier was going a Steeler, a football player for Parsegan, played in the 10-10 game, champion? Was this a big story that you were getting drafted in the end?
No.
Okay.
No. It was a story. I mean, it was. I think it happened so quickly that it didn't become.
So Walter Cronkite did not lead with this in the 6 o'clock.
No, he did not.
Okay.
I'm not that big of a player.
No, I wasn't sure because how many football players getting drafted into fighting in Vietnam?
Well, that's right. Actually, during that period of time, there were several that both ultimately became stories. For instance, there was two players that I knew. Tommy Shane. Tommy Shane was an All-American defensive back for us. Played with him. My teammate, my classmate, second-round draft choice for the Cleveland Browns. Got drafted in training camp before the season even started. Tom Sakel, another guy out of Pittsburgh, went to the University of Minnesota, played for the university here, and we went to basic training together. He got drafted. He played for the Minnesota Vikings, and at the same time, he got drafted. So it was kind of happening, but it wasn't big blow-up stories. It wasn't the number one, draft pick and so on. So we just got buried with everything else.
Rocky Bleier, former Steeler of the 4 Super Bowls, did you get how quickly when you were there were you hurt? Was it 2 months?
4 months. 4 months later. Yeah, 4 months later.
Did you stay in a hospital there for a long period of time?
No. So I was in Da Nang. Therefore, I was in a field hospital, and then went to Da Nang. Then flew to Tokyo. So what they try to do is get you out of the country.
Now, did you play in '69 right away? You went in '68. Did you play the next year in '69?
No. So I didn't. I came back in '70.
Oh, you came back in '70.
So I got out of the service in '70, and then came back to training camp of the fall of '70.
Fall of '70. So you were on that team for a couple of years before they finally won a championship.
Yeah. So I was. But anyway, that fall, I made they put me in injured reserve.
So you didn't play that first year?
Yeah, no, put me in injured.
Was it because of you were injured in Vietnam?
Yeah, because of my injuries. Because it was taking a toll. I came back too soon, and so they put me in.
What was your take of the protesters in America?
Yeah, I guess
even Jane Fonda, Joan Baez. What was your take on
that? In all honesty, it was like
I'm totally down on both of them.
On both of them, because. Very much so. It was.
So that's never going to heal for you, Jane Fonda in North Vietnam. On killing the United States. Not. You're not going to settle for that.
No. All
right. How about Nixon and how about the presidents?
So here, yeah. So
here's what Musgrove told me.
Yeah.
The Marine.
Right.
He said, you know what, Lyndon Johnson. I don't feel bad. He looked me in the eye, and he felt bad he had to do this. He looked me in the eye, and he sent me over there. I respected that. He said, Nixon, I did not.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Well, yeah, as the story evolves. At the time you don't think about it, but as you hear thereafter.
The Vietnam War vet has more animosity towards Nixon than he does Lyndon Johnson.
And maybe, I had some animosity towards Johnson because Johnson also had the chance not to make that decision. He's going to.
He could have deaccelerated it. You could have gotten out of there.
That's right. So he could have.
Have you seen the movie The Post yet?
No, not yet. No.
That's about the Pentagon Papers. Do you have any desire to see that?
Yeah,
or is
very
that
much so.
all you do?
No, yeah.
How do you feel about the fact that McNamara and the U.S. government lied to us about the ability to win that war? You were sort of a sitting duck. You had to go, and they didn't think they could win anyway, but you still went. How do you feel about that?
Well, that we didn't know that at the time. At the time.
How do you feel about
now? Now you go, but it's all part of the feeling of why. So it's
So it doesn't add to it in your eyes. It's just part of the
sad story of those soldiers who didn't come back, those soldiers who lost their life over there. And for what and when it could have been avoided.
You lived and you were the Steeler players interested in your story when you came back, or as a football player just worrying about trying to make the team?
Well, no, I think they were interested. I think there was some empathy, about this kid, me coming back and playing. And so, in some regards, it could have been an inspiration to some of the players.
Was Noel interested?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, and I say this only because. They kept me that whole training camp. That whole training camp.
Before you went to IR?
Yeah, before I went to IR. They kept me and they cut me the last game, So, so they had empathy. They didn't have to do that. They didn't, and they didn't have to put me in IR either. So they kind of bought me a year. And then the following year, I made the taxi squad. I suited up for the last 3 games, but I made this.
That's 72.
That's 71.
71. Still bad.
So 70, 71. But but what they bought me was 2 years. 2 years to heal. 2 years, to come back.
They didn't have to do that. They paid you, and they brought me.
Yeah.
All right, 72 with the Immaculate Reception game. Were you? I know you played in the game. Were you on the field in the West?
No, I wasn't on the
Did
field.
you play in the game at all?
It's special teams. Special teams, yeah.
Stabler made a great run for that touchdown.
Oh, he did. Yeah. I was standing sidelines. That I saw. I was watching that. I'm going. tackle him.
He went right down our left sideline. Good job by Madden. He took Lamonica out of the game and put Stabler in. Stabler had a big game that day.
Oh, that's right. Had a big game.
And then Miami walked in there the next week. So when did you really first start to play? Off special teams, carried the ball, caught the ball?
74. 1974.
The first year you won it.
The first year we won it. So 1970, so I'm back in 74, coming in, trying to make this team. I was back playing special teams, but things happen, so Franco got hurt, backup became the starter, I became the backup to the backup, and all of a sudden the backup got hurt, and I'm inserted in the game early, and so by the fourth game of the season, fifth game, by the sixth game, Franco comes back, I'm playing fullback, and they move me over to the halfback spot, and Franco comes in. And the reason was that Chuck thought there was a weakness in the backfield, and that weakness was that he needed a blocking back. And so he asked our backfield coach, "Who was your best blocker?" And
he said Bleier, and
he
played.
Said Bleier, and I got the start and played.
Was Mean Joe Green a leader of that team?
And Jack Lambert. Yes,
Lambert. So Lambert wasn't there the first couple of seasons.
No, he was. He came in 74, right? But Joe was. Yeah, Joe was the leader. He was developing as a leader. I mean, he was a very passionate player, and had words. So that leadership development started to come, about 74, 75, 70. Get us through. And Joe was a big role because of who he was and how he played, and people listened to him.
Hanratty lives in my town, so when Ara passed away, I had Hanratty on. And Hanratty made a good point. He was going to go, I think he was going to go to Purdue, because Purdue threw the ball out, and they had a lot of good coach, Greasy and people like that. I think he was going to go to Purdue, and Ara recruited him late in the process and said, and he wanted to throw the ball. And Ara said, "You come here, I promise we'll throw the ball." And Ara, didn't want to throw the ball that much. And Ara threw the ball with Hanratty.
He should.
And he had a lot of good things, and he loved Ara. You played for him, too.
Right.
You got there. You were a junior with that 66 team. He was there a couple years before that. But give the audience, you played for him and Noel. That's pretty good.
That's right.
Give him a little rundown on Ara for a second. Go ahead.
Okay, so the comparison between the two are pretty much the same. I mean, they both were organized. They both had an idea of what they wanted to do and how they were going to do it, offensively and defensively. They allowed their assistants to be their own people.
They weren't autocratic. They let people do their thing.
That's right, do their thing. And so with Era, the biggest thing with Era was that there's always a reason why we're doing something. Something is being done. There was a reason, not because it's popular or somebody else is doing it, but it fits within the system and so on. One of the early things I had to learn was to learn to get into a left-handed stance and a right-handed stance. Most people are right-handed, so when you're playing the game, you just get down in a right-handed stance. So in Era's procedure is that if you're to the right side of the ball, your inside hand is down. So if you're on the right side, you get in a left-handed stance. If you're on the left side, you get in a right-handed stance. Not because it looks pretty, but it's functional. Because if you're pulling to the left, you don't have to take a drop step as an offensive guard.
And that minutia tells you why he's a great coach.
That's right. And that one step might make the difference of being able to open the hole or not make the block.
Interesting. Fascinating.
And so he had it all down to things of that nature, and taught me a great deal about the game or learning the game. So I come to Pittsburgh, and so as I'm a rookie in Pittsburgh, and now the rules change. The rules change in Pittsburgh. I mean, in the NFL, the crackback block, now you have to have your head and your shoulder in front of the thigh pads. Okay, so what we're going to do is that anybody on the right side of the line, because at that time, the receivers or the flanker backs had to get in a three-point stance. There wasn't no two-point or standing up anymore. You had to be in a three-point stance because you're on the line. And, okay, we're going to go in a left-handed stance. Now, who can go in a left-handed stance?
Mackie Bleier could. You did it,
and I was the only one. That's right.
Wow.
And I believe to this day, and I say that little thing might have made a difference of why I made the team because
Ara gave you that little sequence.
It was a little sequence.
Well, you did a great job. A Vietnam War vet, and you got the Wounded Warrior scenario here too.
Oh,
and
that's
the
right.
Poor Vietnam War vet always feels slighted. Yeah, I noticed. I mean, because people don't want to talk about Vietnam.
Oh, no, that's right.
It's a terrible war. We shouldn't have been involved. Terrible injury.
Right.
Divisive in America. And what a waste of time. So they feel they gave life and limb, and they feel they're getting love. This war and the stuff that's going on now, we understand why we're in Afghanistan or in places like that. So it's a little different, but still it's the same thing. The threat of being killed,
that's right,
or loss of limb, and you've done a lot of things here with this. Good things you've done with the Wounded Warrior and Vietnam hiring solution. I don't know what Fastport is.
So Fastport is a company that is a technology company that has a platform with tools to help career soldiers make the transition out of the military into everyday life, into what they're going to do in corporate America if they're going to do something.
And that's a hard transition.
It's a hard transition.
You don't think it is? Watch Best Years of Our Lives, 1946.
Oh yeah,
that's all about that.
Yeah. So it's understanding how they take their skill sets in which they learn in the military, whether it be 4 years, 10 years, 20 years, and being able to transfer those skill sets into terminology that is understandable in corporate America. And have corporate America also understand, that if I'm I've been a drill sergeant, is that I can manage people and I can do this and so on. So that platform becomes very important. The other thing is like playing sports, the military is all about team. It's all about an organization. So I don't talk about myself within that group. As I'm making a transition, I now have to take what the team did, but also say, okay, here was my contribution. This is what I can do. That becomes difficult at times. There are tools within this Fastport that helps you establish that fact.
I know a lot of American soldiers have come back to visit. You have any desire to go back and visit Vietnam?
Oh, yeah, I would. I may be going back this year. So it's
you haven't been back since?
I haven't been back since, So it's an opportunity that's coming up. That
could you stomach watching those 10 episodes? Did it get to you after a while? That was very, very engrossing, but very detailed and long.
Right.
Did it wear you out?
I got tired. Yeah, it did. Towards the end, it did. But I found it But as I said in the beginning, I found it very interesting. You
thought Burns did a great job.
I thought he did it.
Are you familiar with his work, the Civil War and the baseball? So you know about it.
I know about it. So it's good.
Rocky, great. I wanted to have you on today for that. Great job, pal. We've had you on a million times. Thanks very much.
Thanks for your time.
You got it. Rocky Bleier, thoughts with him. Lots to still do. We'll take a quick break and come right back to you here on Mad Dog Unleashed.